Bobby Blackjack. Hi guys, this is Nick from Milburn hosting our show tonight. Bobby Blackjack is doing DJ duties tonight, so I have big shoes to fill, but I'm gonna try my best. With me tonight are our panel, our esteemed panel. We have Paul, my friend Paul, just a fan. Paul, how you doing tonight?
Good doing, Nick. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We have Chris Jones, WSOU's finest, following in a long, long history of WSOU superstars. And Chris says, I've been listening to the show from the beginning. We go back Roger Dommel. I can just name names, but, you know, Chris, you're as good as anybody, and play-by-play, you're probably better than most. How you doing tonight?
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Doing good.
And then we have Nick Morgan. I'll tell you, Nick is a rock star, a superstar, part of the band. His video went viral of great opportunity there, and no one knows the women's team, you know, as well as Nick does. Nick, how you doing, my guy?
Good. How are you?
Good. And then I said this last year, and I'm going to say it again, the glue that holds the Pirate Facebook base together, and definitely the glue that holds our show together, the one and only Miss Gizzy, Nicole Gizzy. How you doing tonight, Nicole? What's going on?
I am very pumped for tonight and for Thursday night. How are you?
I am exceedingly pumped for tonight. Tomorrow night I am going. I'm making an appearance. My wife and I are going. My son's working. And his fiance and her sister are going. I couldn't be more looking forward to an event. It's the hottest ticket in town. It's probably the hottest ticket of the season. There's going to be scalpers on campus tomorrow. It's going to be great. And who knows? Before we do that, we'll get into the women's game later. Let's tonight we have Marquette. Golden Eagles, I think they're not the Warriors anymore. When I started watching them with Al McGuire and Butch Lee and all these people. And let me just say this. I don't know if you guys are way too young. Paul might know this. One of the first college teams that I was ever attracted to and liked was Marquette, because they had something called the Marquette jersey. Al McGuire, who ended up being a great announcer on NBC, he came out with Bo Ellis, who was one of his players, helped him design. And what a Marquette jersey is, the name is on the bottom of the jersey below the number. So therefore, you can't tuck the shirt in. And it was just a great look. Now, there's a rule you get a T if you don't tuck your shirt in. But anyway, so Paul, what are your thoughts about tonight against Marquette?
Well, let's start off with the fact that Marquette on the last day of January was 18-3. They were 9-1 in conference play. They were being discussed as possibly breaking the SEC's stranglehold on top seeds in the tournament. And then they went out and lost 3 straight. Now it was UConn at home, St. John's, Creighton on the road. But now they're not even listed in any of the top 4 seeds that the NCAA came out with their preliminary last week. Now they broke the losing streak with a 68-58 win over DePaul on Saturday. They're still going to they're going to the tournament. We all know that. But I read that the number 3 seed is a big difference than the number 4 seed in terms of your first and second round games. And I think that that's still in reach for Marquette if they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. They've got us, Nova, Providence, and Georgetown. You've got SEC and Big Ten teams knocking each other off. And so I think that they have a pretty good upside if they can win out. And that's what it would have to start with them tonight. So we'll do our best to stop that. Now we'll go through their team quickly. Cam Jones is having a tremendous season, 19 points a game, 6 assists. David Joplin's their best rebounder. They have 5 players that get more than 4 rebounds, and I believe they have 4 players who are averaging in double figures a night. Stevie Mitchell and Chase Ross are 2 of those guys. They're both guards. Ross has been banged up. In the last couple of games, he had limited time. What's been bad for Marquette is in their last 4 games, they are shooting 28% from beyond the 3-point line, under 30%. Now, they throw up almost 30 points, 30 trays a game. So if they get into a case where they're not making them, you can see why they've lost 3 out of the last 4. On the other hand, their defense has been tremendous. They're getting 10 steals a game. They're turning their opponents over 16 times. And we don't always take care of the basketball as well as we should. So looking at this game, I have a couple of reasons for us that I think that we can pull off yet another upset. One is Marquette likes to play fast, run up and down the floor, and we're at our best in the 50s, as we saw on Saturday. we slow this game down, we can frustrate Marquette. The other key for me is Godswill Harine. He has had his 2 best games of the season. Went for 10 points and 12 rebounds, I guess, against UConn. His second good game in a row. Marquette is not that big. Marquette's a small team. So if we can control the tempo, get some points inside for the first time all year, and guard the 3, I think that we have a real chance to pull off a second upset. Hey, but what do I know, right? I'm just a fan.
Yeah, you're just a fan, but I got to tell you, your pregame analysis is as good as anything's out there. Let me just say this. With God's will, I see that's the one advantage we have tonight. Now, going into this game, correct me if I'm wrong, we're 18.5-point underdogs, correct?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think sometimes it takes a while for the bookies or the line, whatever, to catch up with the team. And we are absolutely not the team that we were when we played Fordham or Hofstra. We're a totally different team. And part of that, like you said, is because of God's will right now. Would they be able, and he's very explosive with his first step to the hole. Do you envision them having some difficulty? Will they double them? Paul, what do you think? How are they we have somebody now that could pose a problem to them. How do you think they're going to counter God's will?
Well, I was watching their big men, and I took a look at the guys, a little bit of the tape. And one of the guys that's the only guy they have listed as a center is actually they don't have anybody who's listed as a center on their team. I think their inside players are not very physical.
Right.
So they may zone a little bit. Zoning would take away God's will as well, and also make it harder for Isaiah Coleman to get into the paint. In that case, we're going to need Dylan to come out and take some threes and make some. That would be my guess. But I mean, Shaka Smart wants to run up and down the floor. He wants a trap. He wants a steal.
Right.
I don't think he wants us to get into our half court game at all. If we do, it'll be interesting to see if they try to fall back into a zone, or if they're just going to play straight man and let us get the ball inside. Again, I like the inside matchup if we can get the ball to Arahine.
No, good thoughts. Chris, what do you think about tonight's game?
Yeah, so Paul kind of mentioned what I wanted to talk about. I did want to talk about God's will. What I saw last game from him at UConn, or at home versus UConn, I saw a player who is starting to gain confidence because he's a freshman. He's still got time, but he's big. He's got the stature. He's got it all. He's got everything to be a good basketball player. But we saw from the beginning to the middle part of the season, he never had the confidence that he could have. But then against UConn, that's exactly what I saw. He was down in the paint. He was slamming dunks down left and right. Even though he missed that one towards the end of the game, it led to Adewusu getting the going to OT 3-pointer. So he's a player who I'm starting to see the confidence that I would have hoped he had. Going into this game, I want to see if he can bounce off of that. Again, he had his first ever career double with 12 points and 10 rebounds. So he's coming off a good game. Hopefully he can build on that and continue that. But this is still a team that I need to see better 3-point shooting from, especially because of the teams you're going up against are high-scoring offenses. I'm pretty sure Marquette averages roughly 77 points a game compared to our 62.
Right.
So this is going to be a game where, like every game we've been in, Marquette and all of our opponents will try to pull away early and have that wide margin of a lead. And if we want to stay in it, it's going to be the 3-point shooting. And that comes down to Isaiah Coleman. Isaiah Coleman last game played very well. There were points here and there. He missed some shots that he maybe shouldn't have. That were a little bit questionable. You even saw on the court. He was frustrated with himself. But this is a team that we're starting to see them start to gel as a unit. All season long, it's been all over the place. Who can connect well with each other? Who's even going to be able to stay out on the court consistently and not get injured? But I think this is the most consistent team we've had so far. Yeah, we're still without Chauncey Jenkins, which is a bit of a loss. But I think if Goswell can bounce off of his performance he had last game against UConn, and if Isaiah Coleman can continue the hot streak he's been having in the Big East, I'm pretty sure he's either third or fourth in the Big East in points per game. So he's having a career season. If those two can play well, I think it could be a close game. But again, Marquette's a powerhouse, so it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, it's a big road test, but again, this isn't the team, at the beginning of the year, and we're starting to come together. But Chris, let me ask you this: you talked about God's will. You were here for Tyrese, right? Tyrese Samuel. Do you see? The athleticism. I see similarities. What do you think?
So I do see similarities. In some aspects of the game. The only difference I would say is that with Tyrese Samuel, I'll never forget. It was either against Texas or Tennessee. One of those Southern teams. He had like a game-winning 3-point shot from like 10 feet behind the arc. I forget exactly what team it was, but that's the only difference I see in their game is that Tyrese could pull from range, but other than that, the athleticism, the height, the size, all that is absolutely there. So I can see the comparison. The only thing I give to Samuel is the ability to shoot from behind the arc.
Well, one of the things that we forget about God's will is that he's really only been playing basketball for 3 or 4 years. Right? I mean, he grew up on soccer from what I've read about him. And the only thing soccer teaches you about basketball is how to fake taking a charge, right? So the instincts and the footwork and that stuff, he's still learning. And I think that could actually be a big key. Now, Tom Eccles has actually fed me my other line. We have seen Coleman have great games. We've seen God's will have great games. We've seen Prince Alege have great games. But we haven't seen all three guys play well at the same time. And I'd also like to see if they can go inside the Prince play, because I think he would create a matchup. Nick, you were talking about a matchup before. If Ben Gold, who's their Marquette's biggest player, is occupied with God's will, that'll leave Prince some room to operate down low as well and even step out. So I really hope that those two guys really contribute. But Chris Jones, to your point, Isaiah Coleman's the best player on the team, and he has to be the best player on the court for at least some stretch of the time if we're going to have a chance.
Nick Morgan, you had like the best seat in the house for the win last weekend. What do you think? You've been watching this team. What are your thoughts on tonight? Your perspectives?
Yeah, so I like the God's Will follow-up game. I think that's really important. I also want to see a Dylan Adewusu follow-up game. I think that's going to be something that maybe we're not talking about as much with Chauncey Jenkins out. Obviously, we need Coleman, God's Will to click, Prince to click. But I think for Dylan Adewusu, we saw last year especially, he's very streaky when it comes to his shooting. We know he's not going to be the main guy to take a three, at least tonight. Maybe they look to him a little bit more. Maybe he gets more opportunities tonight. The last time he shot more than three from beyond the arc was against Providence on January 11th when he had 8. He had 9 before that, or 9 3-pointers taken before that against DePaul on January 8th. So maybe not necessarily the distance game from Dylan Adewusu, but I want to see him running the ball a little bit better, continuing to find the good looks, take some smart shots, and that's the other thing too. Sometimes when he gets the ball and we're trying to move the ball around, he just starts to kind of chuck the ball up and hope for the best. So some more smart gameplay from Dylan Adewusu. Have him hopefully come up big tonight again. He had the big shot to send us to overtime. He's kind of hopefully running on that adrenaline. Scotty Middleton running off that adrenaline. So the guys that played Hero last time around, we need them to kind of stay cool, calm, and collected because we need that presence again today. I really think Dylan Adewusu especially is someone I want to watch tonight and see how he can perform with this Golden Eagles team against them.
Let me ask Chris and let me ask Nick. Big win, against UConn. Back at campus, has things changed? Has there been more enthusiasm? Have you seen the players? What is the talk about going into today's game?
Yeah, I mean, to say there's a difference is, I don't want to say debatable, but like you'll hear here and there that people will keep saying Seton Hall owns UConn at Prudential Center, which honestly, again, I'm going to say I agree with. The past 4 years, we've not lost, so I agree with that. But I haven't been hearing around campus that this is a new team that we're going to go win it all and win the Big East. I wouldn't say that. But everyone's obviously happy with the UConn win because when you beat a team like UConn, that's always exciting, especially when you do it at home. And especially the environment at the Prudential that night was in my opinion, probably the best night when it comes to the fan base that we've had all season long. So that sense was good, but around campus, it's just been the whole iconic beat UConn 4 times or the last 4 years at home.
Yeah, and then, I mean, if you follow Seton Hall Kids on Instagram that night was going crazy with the stories, all the posts. I think people who aren't showing up to games are even posting about it. So at least it's getting the reach, it's getting the speculation, it's getting the talk out there from the students. And like Chris said, who's to say it's going to change their mindset and mentality and that they're going to show up these last couple of weeks to the rest of the regular season games. But at least there was some sort of like appreciation for the team that we're rolling out there this year, which I think is big. And from what I heard, the guys were very excited, obviously, after the win, and they enjoyed the night out following the game. Hopefully, they have, again, that confidence going into tonight, but not too much confidence. So I know the players, definitely enjoyed themselves. And then for the students, they're having a good time here. Again, not to say that they're going to really show up and show out these last couple games, but a win is a win against UConn, and 4 years in a row just to compete and to continue that, it's obviously a great thing.
Thank you. Nicole, you've been in the student section for a UConn win. How do you think, or do you think that the momentum will carry forward to tonight? And what are your thoughts on tonight's game, Nicole?
I mean, given that it's an away game, I'm not too sure how many students from our side of the spectrum are going to be paying attention, especially because it's a late game. People have classes in the morning, maybe exams. But I hope that the momentum from that UConn upset will at least encourage more attendance at the remaining home games that we have this year, because I think we've seen from the past couple of games that when we've had no student section presence versus last Saturday's game when the student section was completely packed, there was a huge difference in the way that the guys played, and I think that has something to do with their confidence as well, knowing that they have that support from their peers. So that's something that I hope that would carry over. I'm not too confident that it will, given everyone's busy schedules, but you never know.
How do you think the team will come out tonight after the game against the UConn? Positive energy? I think they need to come out quick to take the crowd out of it. What are your thoughts, Nicole?
Yeah, I definitely think they shouldn't be too overly confident, because you never know with the way the games run. The best way I could put it was with the US-Canada game. If you come out too cocky, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, that game was insane. So, personally, I don't think that they should be gloating too much. They should just keep doing what they've been doing. Just let them still be underdogs. Don't let Marquette get too hot on them, and just see if they can pull it out. I hope they can.
Great point. Anyone else have anything to say about today's game before we segue into the women's real quick? Anybody? All right. So for those of you, out there, tonight the men's play. Tomorrow there's a huge women's game. UConn at home. In my opinion, UConn could be they're playing like they're the number one team in the country right now. Gino Auriemma, the great Paige Beckers, who in my opinion is better than Caitlin Clark. The other girl, I think her name's what's her name? Fudge? What's her name, Nick or Chris?
I'm drawing a blank, but I know who you're talking about. I'm trying to remember the name though.
Yeah, she lit up against South Carolina in her last game. So Ozzie Fudd. Yeah, they are clicking on all cylinders right now. But you never know. I just was going to be a lot of Rabbit Seton Hall fans are going to be in attendance tomorrow. So who knows? Nick, you want to go first on your thoughts about tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, Seton Hall Pirates for Tony Mazzella are coming off of a great win against Providence. They held the Friars to 38 points, which was a season low for that program this year. They scored less points than against UConn. Providence put up 40 against the UConn Huskies. They put up 38 against us. The defense is something that I think definitely gets a little overlooked for Mazzella's Pirates. 59 points for us in the game, which is kind of right on par. Jada Eads led with 13 points. Faith Masonis did, in fact, have a better game than she has the past couple stretches. 12 points for Masonis. We're seeing a lot more of Ramani Parker out there on the court, 15 minutes in each of her last two games, which is big. I think she's trying to kind of catch up to the level of D1 play after being out for so long. So she's working her way back in, gaining that confidence and that comfortability back on the court. She had 9 points last game as well. She was tied with Catalan for the third highest on the team. This UConn game is going to be important. We lost by 60 last time, right? And if we're trying to sniff out an NCAA bid, if we're going to lose tomorrow, it has to be by a lot smaller of a margin than 60 points when we lost 96-36. So at that point, that's going to be really the only deciding factor. We are, on par, on pace to hit 20 regular season wins, and that's definitely possible. So the sight of 20 wins is not impossible, but I do think that tomorrow's going to be big. And as for the student section, very limited student tickets are going to be open tomorrow. So I know a lot of my friends are kind of running over as soon as the window opens because there's a lot of excitement there.
Wait, are they going to have like a Krzyzewski's tent corner or something like that? Are they lining up now? What's going? It's cold.
I don't know. They should. They definitely should. Maybe.
Nicole, is your sister out there camping out? Is this like, I don't know, Taylor Swift tickets or something?
I don't know, but maybe Nick could convince her to go.
Chris, what do you feel that's on campus right now? Is there a buzz about the women's team? I mean, is the demand greater than the supply as far as the student tickets are going?
Yeah, I mean, at least for the students, I mean, I'm always around kids who we talk sports on a daily basis, whether it's with WSOU or PSN or whatever it is. We talk sports on a daily basis, and there's not enough praise to give this women's team because that's all I ever hear. It's very rare that you hear anyone saying something bad about this women's team because there's not much to say. There's not much to say that is wrong with this team because everything is just so good about this team so far. So for this game coming up, I actually, surprisingly, in my 4 years of being here, this is probably the most I've heard about the women's team on campus. So that gives me excitement going into this game, especially with it being a sold-out crowd in the Walsh Gymnasium. It's going to be a packed night, and it's going to be a good night.
Good, and hopefully, I mean, UConn travels well, but hopefully it's like 85-15 because they're going to have some people there, some fans. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Paul, what are your thoughts about tomorrow's game? I know your favorite guy is coaching their team.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't even want to get started about him. Again, right, this is a guy who I would want to punch out if he was giving blood. Okay, so you can't, there's nothing he can do that would be good as far as I'm concerned. UConn is 23-1 against teams that are not in the top 25, and they're 1-3 against teams that are in the top 25. So it seems their pattern is when they're playing teams that they get ahead early, they go and blow them out. But when they're put under pressure, they can crack a little bit, and they've done that against other good teams this year. Now, can that happen in Walsh? I don't know. I also am wondering about. You've got to wonder about the psyche of a team that's going out to play the team that just beat them by 60. Are they going to come out fired up? Are they going to be looking for revenge? Are we going to see a more physical game? I think those are all questions that we'll find out tomorrow. Again, I would like to, Danny Hurley and Gino Auriemma to both have their heads explode in New Jersey on consecutive days. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that in sports. UConn is so good. And I was looking at what happened in the first game. They just came out running, and there was never a moment to breathe. But I think the atmosphere will be great. I think that the fans will be all over the women's team, and I think that if they can weather that initial storm, that UConn might find themselves in something that they're not ready to handle.
Yeah, I've been to the UConn Seton Hall game at Walsh for the past 2 years, and Paige Beckers attracts a lot of little girls come. And what do they do, Nicole, with their hair, that braid thing, or with the same way that she wears their hair? And it's like, do you guys sense, is she that big of a star, or am I just being a little starstruck? I think she's a superstar. Nicole, you go first. What do you think?
I mean, she definitely gives off the same effect that we saw with Caitlin Clark last season. I don't think that Caitlin Clark would have seen the success she did if Paige did not get hurt last season. Because even when I was a student and my roommate was the student manager, like all she would talk about when they would play UConn is Paige this, Paige that. Like she's just good. And she had hell of a game the other night when she and UConn were up against the defending national champions, the Gamecocks. They just came out of the gates and dominated. So it's going to be something to keep an eye out for, because whenever she gets that ball in her hand, you know it's going to be something great.
Yeah, she makes things happen. Exactly. When she has the ball in her hand, it's almost like in slow motion. Her court vision and everything. And I wonder if Tony's gonna put faith on her for a little while. I'd like to see that matchup.
I'm sorry, Nicole, you just brought up a great point though. UConn's coming off their biggest game of the season. Right?
Yeah.
They went out South Carolina, they won on national television, they beat the defending champions. They beat them really good. And now they've got to go to a 1,200 seat gym and play on a Wednesday night.
Right.
This has trap game written all over it for UConn.
If I'm not mistaken either, isn't UConn before the Gamecocks win, weren't they coming off of a 3-game losing streak?
I will check because I've got it in front of me.
I'm not sure on that one because they have 3 losses on the season.
That might have been it.
So that might be what you're thinking about.
Paul, that's an excellent point you made, but I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to say, with that guy as their coach, that ain't happening. He was on them immediately on the plane ride home, and now they're focused on Seton Hall. He was telling them they weren't that good. I mean, you got the interaction that he has with Paige is remarkable. I love watching it. And last year, and I got to say this, she is such a great young lady. After the game last year, she stood there, and there was a line of little girls, and maybe Joe Morales was in line too. I don't know, to get their pictures and autographs with Paige, and she stood there and signed and took pictures. And CD, one of the assistants, went up to her and was like, Paige, come on, we got to go to bus. Okay, coach, okay. And she stood there for a good hour, and she's just great. And the same thing's going to happen, tomorrow night. So I think she's a great ambassador of the women's sports, a great ambassador of basketball. And I am so psyched. I blocked my schedule out at work. I'm going to be there. Guys, any other thoughts about the game tomorrow night?
Well, I was just going to ask. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I just wanted to quickly hint on something that Nick Morgan actually brought up. A player that I've been preaching ever since she's hit that court is Ramani Parker. I've loved her play style and what she's been adding to this team, because I was on Hall Line for the Providence game this past game, and we were talking about how this is a team that can pretty much do it all. But when it comes to being down in the paint and playing in between the boxes, there's not been the true number 5. Because yes, we have Ayanna Lopes, but she's not, in my eyes, she's not a true 5, only because she loves to shoot from behind the arc. She loves to take those deep threes. She takes jumpers. She can play down in the paint, but she's not that extremely physical type of 5 that you'd be looking for. But that's what Ramani Parker is. And having Ramani Parker now into this lineup with a team that can shoot from 3, that can shoot from the elbow, that can shoot from wherever, having someone like her who can play down in the paint and get those rebounds, I think has now even more so made this a more overall stacked team, because she's now that true 5.
Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really agree with Chris. I think Ayanna Lopes has done some great things for this program. I don't think that she is like the big physical 5 that we need. But now with Ramani Parker, I mean, we don't know how many minutes she's going to get tomorrow. She's got 15 the last 2 games, and that's her season high. I think she's only 4 or 5 games in. So Faith Masonis is probably going to be down there. Maybe we see Messiah Hunter a little bit more out there tomorrow as well, just to play the height and to try to use the height that we do have to our advantage. But we also know that, Marquette height was an issue for us too, and we didn't really combat their height at all when we lost to the Golden Eagles last week. So I think it's going to be an important game. And going back to Paige Backers, just kind of what she does for young fans and for girls, especially coming up playing basketball, like she's a perfect advocate for the sport on and off the court. Like if you look through her social media, and social media obviously now is huge, but it's all her playing basketball. It's all her doing brand deals. She's very career focused. And she knows what she wants. She's going after it. She's someone that you really appreciate because the social media side isn't her hanging out with her friends off the court, traveling, doing this, that, and the next thing. It's her playing basketball, her doing her brand deals, and her knowing what she wants for the future. I think it's very admirable. And I think when people look at that and when people use social media to the extent that they do, seeing her performance and seeing how she is as a person, how she carries herself are both really big things. I think tomorrow the energy is going to be really high. There's going to be a big turnout tomorrow. I know Coach Boz said on Bobby's show that tickets are going from $500 to $1,000 on the secondhand markets.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wait, God, I would never.
Yeah, so there's going to be a big demand there tomorrow. I'm excited to see Walsh completely packed. And I think no matter what happens, it's just going to be a great atmosphere. So I'm ready for whatever tomorrow night has in store for us, but hopefully back-to-back hard upsets over UConn.
Getting back to Gino real quick, our boss, the coach, Tom Eccles, actually coached against Gino in an AAU game. And even though it was, they were high school kids or whatever, and I think it was Gino's son. Gino was still Gino. And Tom did a good job against him. Tom's a good coach too. And so anyway, anybody else on the women's game? Paul, just a fan. What do you think?
Well, my only question was going to be, you've been talking a lot about Paige. How do you see her in the WNBA?
She's going to do better than. First of all, she's going to go in, and I don't think she's going to have the drama that Caitlin Clark, for whatever reason, had. And I think, in my opinion, that Paige is a better all-around player than Caitlin Clark. Might be the minority here, but Gino said it last year, and I'm going to say it this year. Nicole, what do you think about the two, Caitlin and Paige?
I personally am more attracted to Caitlin, but that's just me. She's just very inspirational for
right.
going from a nobody to somebody, whereas Paige has kind of always had the attention on her. So that was something that really brought my attention. But it's no doubt that Paige is going to go first overall. So it's going to be interesting to see like the comparison of how she gets welcomed into the NBA versus the criticism that Caitlin Clark faced, and how she was able to push all that aside and rally against it and be able to put up all the numbers that she did and prove that she belonged there.
Good. Thank you. Great discussion tonight. So let me just say this before one thing, because there was something posted online at our Facebook page, and it was basically that someone said, don't know if this is true or not, but someone posted that they know that Isaiah Coleman hired an agent to explore NIL possibilities. And I am kind of ticked off that our fan base automatically thinks that means he's gone. I think it's a good thing. He's allowed to hire representation. I have no idea, behind the scenes negotiations. I would imagine the powers that be are not gonna, want to see another Kadari on this and are going to make a strong effort. Paul, what do you think?
Again, it's very difficult to tell what's going to happen when the season is over. I think Isaiah Coleman will get transfer portal offers. Everybody knows that he's a great talent. I think that at some point when that settlement comes through and the athletic department decides how much money they can put into the NIL pot themselves out of Seton Hall revenues, that then we'll have a better idea of what can be done. I think that it's fascinating that college athletes now are hiring agents to negotiate with colleges. But that is the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
I also think, there was and hopefully we might have this conversation Thursday night on the weekly show. Isaiah Coleman's been here 2 years. He's starting to become the guy for Seton Hall. To some degree, there's almost a brand recognition between him and the Hall. Now he walks, if he, would he have more outside NIL opportunities if he stays in Jersey? I think that's kind of the question. We're thinking about NIL as solely the universities putting money into the pot to pay the athletes, as opposed to a whole endorsement package that might come from other places. So I'm not exactly sure where it all shakes out, but I'd like to think that Isaiah Coleman in New Jersey would be able to pick up more outside NIL endorsements than he is if he decides to run to, Oklahoma State, where nobody's seen him, nobody knows him. Again, that's just a thought, and we might get more into this on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Chris, what do you think about Isaiah and the potential of an agent and leaving and all that good stuff?
The way I look at it is that we were kind of saying this with Kadari in the sense that Kadari was looking out for Kadari. That's what he was doing. He was trying to help himself out, which, again, as Seton Hall fans, you didn't want to see him go. But what he was doing was best for himself. And now look at him. He's top of the Big East, going to NCAA, not even a question.
Right.
So for Isaiah, he's maybe trying to do what's best for him. He's keeping his options open, and arguably, when you're one of the faces of the Big East, like he is probably, when you think Big East, you think Isaiah Coleman, you think Cam Jones from Marquette, you think all those guys. So I can't blame him. I can't really blame him when he's having the season he's having, and he probably will have the opportunities to get offers in the transfer portal and go get however much it is. So I can't really blame him because, again, like how we were saying with Kadari, Isaiah's looking out for Isaiah. Obviously, I would love for him to stay here for 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. But Isaiah's doing Isaiah. He's gonna thrive wherever he goes. But again, I'm gonna say I want him to stay here because I know that he has potential with Seton Hall to do absolutely outstanding things. But it's just Isaiah looking out for Isaiah.
Nick Morgan, do you think he has to be our priority? I mean, again, we're talking like, the Yankees and Juan Soto, but that is what this has become. So, I mean, I know some people are annoyed by it, but this is the reality. These guys are unrestricted free agents. I know it's college basketball. It's absurd, but that's the way it is right now. And if you want to be competitive, this is what you have to do. So anyway, do you think that he's our number one priority?
I think he's the number one priority. I think he has to be, face of the franchise. If we're going to base it off of professional sports, at the highest level, Isaiah Coleman is the guy. This is the echo of what Paul and Chris said. Also, I know we talked about possibly doing this during the midweek show, but it also comes down to how much money can we provide and allocate for the women's program, and how much are we willing to spend on the big stars? Because do we want to pivot and make Jada Eads and Savannah Catalan, the people here at Seton Hall? And Isaiah Coleman, maybe we let walk to pay Eads and Catalan a little bit more and focus on the women's success, right? So I think that's also important. That's something that's going to come down to, again, when we get all of our financials at the end of the year or at the end of the academic year, and we kind of understand what's going on a little bit better. For the men's team, 100% is going to be the priority. But maybe it is interesting where we start to reallocate our funds and our resources to that women's team, because we know what Coach Tony can do. We've seen the success of Jada Eads and Savannah Catalan, the young core that we have. Faith Masson is possibly coming back as a GA coach next year to help Bozzella and help guide this team once more. I think that's also going to be important. So for the men's team, of course, you want to keep Isaiah Coleman around. But he's going to look out for himself. He's going to go where the money is, because at the end of the day, in 5-10 years, what does I was the face of Seton Hall basketball really do for you outside of college? He's not going to be in 5 years from now looking like, I was the best player at Seton Hall and I passed on so much money to be the best player. Maybe that is something he's going to do. Maybe he's going to bleed the pirate blue, and that would be amazing. But at the end of the day, that doesn't help him down the line being the face of this team necessarily. So he's going to do his best for him. I think he is the number one priority for the men. But if we're looking university-wise and basketball program-wise in general, maybe he's not quite at the top if we don't think this men's team can go out and get other players to be more competitive next year.
Nicole, your thoughts on the subject.
Well, two things I just wanted
let's go to Nicole real quick. We're got 3 minutes left. So Nicole,
go ahead,
real
Nicole.
quick.
My last thoughts for this, at least, the thing that I try to wrap my head around is the fact that we might have the same situation that we did last season where we pretty much lost our entire team.
Yes.
And I think it's important to try to rally around Isaiah because, we got that recognition with him. He's won an NIT with us. He's pretty much the face of our current program right now once Wusu graduates. But again, how much money is he going to be offered? Are we going to be able to compete with that? Because we have other people to pay as well. It's just uncertainty.
Yes, great points. Okay, let's go real quick. Final thoughts, Paul.
Well, just two quick ones. The first one, I think Nick is right that, how bankable is being the face of Seton Hall basketball. And I think that maybe part of what the strategy has to be is to make that more bankable. I don't know how you do that, but maybe that's a possibility. But the other thing I wanted to throw out is, Nick, what instrument do you play in the band?
Mellophone.
Okay, let's suppose that somebody from Alabama came to you, said to you, I want you to transfer to Alabama. I want you to play the mellophone, and I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year to play the mellophone at the Alabama football, basketball, and baseball games. You love Seton Hall. Would you take the money? I won't make you answer, but that's what these guys are.
It is.
That's what these guys have to consider. So I'll just leave it with that.
I asked that same question to a kid on WSOU and got yelled at. So yeah, that's a legit. I think Morales yelled at me. That's a great question. Fine minds think alike. Chris, final thoughts.
Yeah, no, with the whole Isaiah thing, he's gonna do what he wants to do. He's gonna obviously we want him to bleed Pirate Blue for the rest of his career. That's up in the air. But personally, I'm still locked in on today's game. I'm still locked in on the rest of the season. I want to see how the season plays out. Try to finish out the rest of the season hot. Maybe see you can make a little bit of a push in the Big East tournament. Maybe upset some teams. Who knows? But today, I'm just focusing on Marquette. Hopefully, we make it a close game. Maybe pull out the win. And then also tomorrow, tremendous, huge game for the women's team. If they can make it close, beat Marquette or beat UConn, whatever it is, they then got a pretty easy stretch for the rest of the season. So I see a 20-win season upcoming for this women's team.
Thank you. I'm gonna break a rule of this and ask a question I don't know the answer of. What channel's the game on tonight, or what network?
CBS.
Yeah.
Thank you.
CBS Sports Network.
Thank you. Nick, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to echo what Chris was saying too. I think it's important now, these last couple of games that we have, to enjoy Isaiah Coleman and to whatever he brings to the table. However much he can go out there and put up for us these next, 4, 5, 6 games, and whatever it looks like in the Big East tournament. But I think taking in all of what Isaiah Coleman has to offer, just really enjoying the fact that he is currently a Pirate, because that's all that we know for sure is that he will end this season with Seton Hall. So enjoy these last couple of weeks with him. Another upset with him on the team would be awesome. If we can go ahead and the line, I think, Nick, you said was 18.5 that Marquette's favored by, or Paul, one of you guys said that. UConn was favored by 13.5 the other day against us. So, we can definitely take those odds and run with them, especially with Coleman and Godswill and everyone if we're clicking all on the same page. But really enjoying Isaiah Coleman and what he has to bring to the table these last couple of games. And then also, the women's game tomorrow is going to be important. And just, again, the energy and excitement that it brings forth to the students and the programs.
Thank you. Nicole, final thoughts.
My final thoughts I'm going to use to promote what I keep together. So everyone who joined in today, please invite your Pirate friends, alums. Oh, no, someone's calling me. Hold on. Okay. Invite your Pirate friends, alumni, and fans to join the largest and best Seton Hall Pirates group on Facebook. We feature past player profiles from Isaiah Williams. We have men's game previews from Art Thomas and our very own Paul. We also got women's previews and post-game analysis from Isaiah Williams and our very own Nick Morgan. We got our very own Hall Line callers, Nick from Milburn, as our co-host right here, and Jeff Kovach from Point Pleasant. We've also got direct posts from media members such as Jerry Carino, Jaden Daly from the Daily Dose of Hoops, Bobby Blackjack Garente. He's the producer for Surge Sports, and he hosts our show. We got Matt Mazonsky and Brian DeNovelis. And lastly, you get to see all our group shows that we produce here live, including the Coach Boz Show, the Pirates pregame show, which we are on right now, and our midweek show, Hall Hoops and Happenings. Thank you, everyone.
And Nicole, you do, again, the glue of this. You do a great job keeping this all together. And I thank you. And I'd also like to thank the executive guys out there, the great Patrick Min, Tom Eccles. Thank you. We love doing this and appreciate it. So tonight I look for a competitive game. Who knows? And tomorrow, I've been saying it all year, you have to have faith in faith. Let's go Pirates. This is Nick from Milburn. For Paul, Chris, Nick, and Nicole, we're out of here. Guys, let's go Pirates. Tune in tomorrow, and let's go Pirates. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.